First off, I want to say that Oblivion is one of my favorite games of all time, so I absolutely have a bias. But the remaster is phenomenal. I've been putting about 5 hours into it since it came out yesterday, and I would have had this video out sooner if I wasn't so engrossed in the story again. But the game isn't perfect. When we found out that they were remaking the game, I was very excited. It was one of the worst kept secrets in gaming, but last week we got a bunch of new leaks about it from some files that were downloaded off of Virtuous's website. Then we heard it was coming out this week. Then Bethesda Game Studios had, I think it was about a half-hour presentation where they talked about what went into this remaster, and then they shadow dropped it. Although some people are arguing that this isn't a shadow drop because they told us about the presentation the day before. I don't know how I feel about that. I kind of think that it's a shadow drop, but let me know if you disagree in the comment section down below that like button. But we need to back up a bit because we had heard that they were using Unreal Engine 5 when the leaks were going on, which is a notoriously demanding engine. Now, because the game is a remaster and not a remake, though I'll get to that in a little bit, I was thinking that perhaps there are enough of the old bones there that would make the game a little less demanding, and maybe the game would be playable on handheld PC systems like the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally. Well, I was wrong about that. Or, you know what? There are lots of games that I wouldn't play on these systems because the trade-offs are too many. But if a game is playable enough for you, then by all means, have at it and tell me what settings you are using to get the kind of frame rates that you're getting. While I'm talking about my experience with the game, I want to show you some game footage running on the Steam Deck, the ROG Ally X, the Lenovo Legion Go S, the ROG Flow Z13, which is running Strix Halo, and then finally my Xbox Series X. I'll also show you what settings I'm running the game on, and I'll have performance metrics on screen as well, so you can decide if it's playable enough for you. But before we do that, I want to tell you about the sponsor of this episode, MoPad, and this thing is really cool. With the price of the Switch 2 set at $450 for now, it's possibly going to increase at a later date for reasons I'm not going to get into here. There are a lot of people looking at their Switch 1 and thinking, you know what, I may just stick with that. But my biggest issue with the Switch is just how uncomfortable it is to play on. That's where these come in. These are the MoPad M6 HD, and oh man, I wish that I had found these sooner. First of all, they are super comfortable, and they actually make me enjoy playing on my Switch in handheld mode more. They have micro switches that have really good rebound, and they feel tactile instead of mushy like other Joy-Con replacements that I've tried. They support almost all the features of Joy-Cons, including gyro, HD rumble, NFC. But check this out. You can swap the faceplate, take this one off and swap to this one, and you might be wondering, why would I do that? This one has a smooth stick ring, and this one has an octagonal one, so you can swap between them based on what games you're playing. The D-pad is also swappable. I prefer the round disc-shaped D-pad, but if you want a more traditional D-pad, they're super quick to swap. Speaking of changing things up, you can also install the app on your phone and reprogram the controllers. It is super easy. So if you're holding onto your Switch and you want to breathe new life into it, and check out the link in the description down below, and a big thank you to MoPad for sponsoring this video. Now, back to what I was saying. Let's start things off with the Steam Deck OLED, which has a Van Gogh APU and 16 gigs of LPDDR5 RAM. That's shared between the CPU and the GPU. First off, this is a remake or a remaster. They're calling it a remaster, but man, this feels like a remake. They've done so much to modernize this game, but at the same time, it still feels like Oblivion. I just closed my first gate in the game, and I knew exactly where to go and exactly what to do. Everything felt super familiar, but looked so much better. Some have said that perhaps Bethesda Game Studios has decided to call this a remaster instead of a remake because it automatically lowers expectations when compared to the word remake. And I don't know where you draw the line, but to me, this feels like a brand new game. And if they had called it a remake, I wouldn't have batted an eye. Very similar to Metroid Prime Remastered on the Nintendo Switch. I think that came out about 2 years ago, and that's a very similar situation, at least to me. But what do you guys think makes a game a remake? What makes a game a remaster? Let me know in the comment section down below. Okay, let's switch over to the ROG Ally X, which is running the AMD Ryzen Z1 Extreme chipset along with 12 gigs of LPDDR5 RAM. This is the same chipset that is in the Lenovo Legion Go, so I'm not showing that system because they're going to have very similar performance. Back to the leaks about the game and how true they turned out to be. Pretty much everything was spot on, but there was one thing that didn't turn out to be true, and that was this screenshot that showed a side-by-side comparison. This was pulled off of Virtuous's website. Side-by-side comparison of the same location in the original game as well as in the remaster. And a lot of people looked at that screenshot and they were really disappointed with the colors, because Oblivion is a pretty colorful game, and it has, you know, the new screenshot made everything feel kind of desaturated. Well, I think that was just a fluke, or maybe just that one area, because I'm seeing tons of color in this game. It's not washed out at all. In fact, I think it looks really, really great. Switching things up, by the way, this is the Lenovo Legion Go S, the Windows version. This is running the Ryzen Z2 Go chipset. Now, you might hear me say Z2 and think that that's a faster chip than the Z1, but it's not, because that's a Go chipset and the Z1 is an Extreme chipset. So it's the Z2 Go is actually less powerful, though it does have 32 gigs of RAM. While we're looking at this footage, I wanted to talk about the Oblivion mod. I hadn't heard anything about this until recently, but there's a team of people who are currently working to mod Skyrim, and they are building the world of Oblivion in the game Skyrim, hence the name Oblivion. Now, when I put out my first video about the Oblivion remake, a lot of people said that Bethesda was just rushing this game out in order to beat Oblivion to the punch. And they were worried that Oblivion would get shut down by BGS. Well, I don't think that we have to worry about that anymore, as Bethesda just called out the Oblivion team and they sent them codes for this game as a thank you for the work that they are doing, which is really great to hear. Now, you might wonder, with Oblivion Remastered, is there any point to finishing the Oblivion mods? And I think that there is, for a couple of reasons, but mostly because Oblivion is going to run way better on handhelds than Oblivion Remastered does, because it's using the Skyrim bones, and Skyrim runs great on systems like this. So if you want to play handheld, I don't know that I'd recommend Oblivion Remastered to you, you know, just based on the performance that I'm showing in this video, but I am loving the game. So, I mean, that's definitely a juggling act there. Two things can be true at the same time. The game can be awesome and it can run really poorly on handheld. And as far as, you know, if this is going to be better or worse than Oblivion, only time will tell. But just like two things can be true at the same time, both of these games can be great at the same time. And even though I have the original Oblivion and now I have Oblivion Remastered, when Oblivion comes out, I'm going to check that out as well, especially because this game is really power hungry and playing it on handheld doesn't work very well. Speaking of power, this is the ROG Flow Z13, which has the AMD Ryzen AI Max Plus 395 with a Radeon 8060 and 32 gigs of RAM. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with this device, that ridiculously named chip is Strix Halo, and it is really powerful. Take a look at the performance metrics that I've got on screen right now. And while we're looking at that, let's talk about the combat. The combat feels very much like old Oblivion, but it feels a little bit better. First off, I love that you can sprint. I feel like it makes the combat so much more fun, as I can kite enemies easier with a ranged weapon, or if I'm focused on close quarters combat, then when archers or mages show up, I can rush at them fast and then eat some stamina regen food when I get there in order to fill my green bar back up. My playthrough that I'm playing right now, I ended up going with a Khajiit Knight, which is going to focus on healing magic to keep myself alive. I will say that one of the things that really ticked me off about the game is the map system. It's great for outdoors, but as soon as you go inside, at first it seems like you can't get any map of the dungeons, which is really tough. But what you have to do is just zoom the map all the way in and then zoom in a little bit more, and then the map will show you the dungeon map. I went through a few dungeons without this, and there's nothing in the game that tells you this. And if I hadn't already done those particular dungeons in the past, you know, more than once, I'd have been hopelessly lost, because the dungeons all have a very similar look to them throughout, and it's very easy to get lost and not know which way you're going. I even started putting food items down on the floor in the dungeons so that I could track where I had and had not been. Hopefully they patch the game and tell people that this is how you zoom in to see the dungeons, because at first I was very confused. Throughout this video, you've been seeing the performance of the game on handheld. And like I said earlier, I'm not going to say if it's playable or not, because you can see what settings I'm using. You can see the performance that I'm getting. You can make that decision for yourself. But what I will say is that I personally wouldn't play the game on most of these devices because the performance is just too low. But even on my Xbox Series X, which does have both performance and quality modes, the performance I'm seeing is lots of weird stuff. First off, I'm absolutely seeing frame dips, though I can't measure those as I'm playing on a console, so I don't have like frame time graphs, but I'm seeing them in combat in the open world mostly, in dungeons not so much. I'm also seeing some really strange graphical artifacts, and I'm not an expert on this, but I can always see them when I'm near an Oblivion gate. It's these little red lines that you can see on the screen right now. They're all over the place. I've also seen these in the woods, but they'll be different colors, and I think that they might be falling leaves or butterflies or something. I think that these are particles, and I think that this is a result of AI upscaling called Auto SR, which is kind of like DLSS or FSR, or it might be from frame generation. I'm really not sure, but it is odd looking, and I've gone back and forth between performance and quality mode, and nothing gets rid of it. But what do you think of the performance of the game? Are you going to pick it up, or are you going to wait for Oblivion? Have you already picked it up? What kind of system settings do you have, and how well is the game performing? Let me know in the comments down below, and if it's your first time here, please subscribe. From the NerdNest, I'm Bill. Thanks for watching, and stay rad.